Welcome back to Houston Legends. I'm Dr. Laura Murillo, President and CEO of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are here to recognize one of our own, and she's Carrin Patman. She's been doing a phenomenal job here in the Houston area. Specifically, currently, she serves as chair of Metro, but she has decades of experience, including serving as a partner at Bracewell and just a long list of community service. So thank you for all of that.
Well,
we know,
thank you
we know how important it is to give back to the community, and certainly your work.
You certainly do that.
Well, we try hard at the chamber,
You
most
do.
definitely. We absolutely do. And looking at your credentials in terms of your education and all the things that you've been able to accomplish, we're always curious about the impact that others had on you as you were growing up to serve as that example. So tell us a little bit about your family, your parents, and what some of those lessons were that brought you here today.
Well, I grew up in a family of public servants.
Yes.
My dad and both of my grandfathers served in elected office, and my mother was very active in Democratic Party politics. So the political process and community involvement were just part of my growing up years. I was involved with political campaigns from the time I was 4 and licked my first stamp in my dad's first election in 1960. And so serving the public and a public-spirited attitude was just part of the way I was brought up, and I'm very lucky. And I was also given many, many advantages and opportunities that frankly a lot of people don't have, and so it's very much incumbent on me to give back. I'm very well aware of that.
So first job, what was your first job?
My first job was as a typist.
Okay.
That was a very good one,
You
too.
know what? That was an important job to have and skill set for sure.
It was.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my dad, when I was growing up, he wanted me to be able, it was very, very important to him that I be able to have a way to support myself, that I wouldn't have to get married if I didn't want to. I wouldn't have to, if there were financial reverses in our family, that I would be able to support myself. And so his first thought was I could be a crack secretary. So I went and learned typing. I was a very fast typist. And then he got the idea, wait a minute, why don't you go to law school? Okay. So law school books started popping up all over the house. And so SAT books, LSAT books, and ultimately I did go to law school, and it was a great decision.
And talk to us about becoming a partner. Not an easy feat.
Well, it was. Being at a big law firm downtown in that era was challenging. Bracewell is a wonderful, inclusive place, but there just weren't that many of us when I started. And so there was a completely different standard. There was sort of the attitude of, well, you know, why do you want to be a lawyer? You could get married and that sort of thing from some of the older folks. But then over time, I proved myself, and they did make me a partner. And then ultimately, I was elected the first woman to the management committee, which meant a great deal to me. And there, I was able to truly help advance other women in the law firm, and that was a very meaningful aspect to me of being a partner there.
Well, and speaking of which, you've been recognized by a variety of different groups, including the Women's Chamber, and you've been out there as a role model to so many. What would you have to say to young women today who are just entering, a professional career?
Well, I just think you have to bring determination, not let temporary setbacks or misimpressions or gender bias, which does still exist, it's just a little bit more subtle. Don't let it get you down. Go ahead, as the phrase goes, lean into the experience and just work really hard, and I believe that the opportunities are just abundant. You don't want to go in naive, because I started in a law firm over 35 years ago, and it was just a completely different climate because people just weren't used to having as many women. Now there are a lot of women in the profession. But you will encounter subtle gender bias and assumptions that men don't encounter, and you just have to push through that and not get your feelings hurt, not feel the slight, just push through it.
Yeah. And you mentioned it, it's really true, is that it's a different type of bias. Mm-hmm. It is very subtle. And often, as women, we think there's no one to share this with, or whether or not it's going to have unintended consequences. What do you say to the women that are in a situation where perhaps they are being discriminated against or suffer some of the scrutiny that perhaps their male counterparts don't?
Well, one thing I think you can do is, and I had some wonderful female mentors, but I also had some great male mentors. And I also, as I got more confident, was able sometimes to point out to them, you know, you don't realize it, but the way you treat me in a meeting with clients is tacitly undermining. You don't mean it that way at all, but just the perspective, it comes off that way. And it was a teachable moment, and they learned. I mean, when I was on the management committee, I learned that the compensation system, because there was sort of a old boys network, you know, they were more prone to think men deserved a bump in compensation. And if you pointed out a woman partner whose numbers were the same and said, wait a minute, she deserves to go up too, they go, you're right, she does. So it's just a matter sometimes of pointing these things out in a polite, kind way. You don't want to put somebody on the defensive, because most people don't think that they have those biases. It just has to be gently and perhaps with some humor pointed out to them.
With a velvet glove.
With a velvet glove, that's exactly right.
Well, Carrin, thank you for all that you do. Congratulations on all of your accomplishments, and good luck with the bond.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, and we recognize again Carrin Patman as one of our Houston legends. On behalf of the Houston Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we thank you for joining us. Have a great day.